Good to have you with us post Kentucky and Oregon. But that's really not the story today. The big story today is this Nevada hangover that the Democrats have got. Good to have you with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, Biogreen, Clean of the Eye Safe team bring you this commentary and interview. I'm pissed off. I am so furious that the Democratic establishment, the Clinton Bobos out there, that's what they are. The Clintonistas are trying to hang everything on Bernie Sanders. It's his fault that Hillary can't go head to head with Trump right now. It's his fault because he's getting in the way and they got to spend more money. He's got to be responsible for the actions of all these people in Nevada where he wasn't even at that convention after they were disenfranchised. It's Bernie's fault because he's not saying enough to condone, to distance himself from all of this stuff. I mean, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you're giving everybody in politics a lesson on how to be hated. This isn't leadership. This is democracy. And when you have people at a political rally, organization, convention, and they feel like they're being disenfranchised and they feel like they're not being heard, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Reverse the tables. What if this was happened to Clinton's people? That all of a sudden all these shenanigans were taking place. Well, but you know what? It's Bernie's fault because he just hasn't said enough. And oh, by the way, the two senators who are complaining about everything that unfolded in Nevada are the senators from California, and we know that California is next on the big list, right? That's the big prize with 400 plus delegates to be decided. And we certainly don't want to see Bernie Sanders get any of them, do we? So we have Barbara Boxer saying that she feared for her security when she was at this Nevada convention over the weekend. We have Dianne Feinstein who says that she doesn't want to go back to 1968. I do. We got some shit done in the 60s. It was called civil rights. And this is what democracy looks like sometimes. Remember, we were told when we were invading Iraq by the Bush administration that sometimes democracy's ugly. You know, so, I mean, suck it up. This is what it looks like when change is in the air. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz last night comes out and says, Bernie's just not going far enough.
Unfortunately, the senator's response was anything but acceptable. It certainly did not condemn his supporters for acting violently or engaging in intimidation.
There was no violence. There was nobody hurt. There was no violence. There were people who were upset and raising their voice and have at it in a political rally, convention type situation. There's nobody hurt. Nobody's arrested. Come on. Of course, we all know Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she can't carry enough gallons of water and lick the boots enough of the Clintons. I mean, that's what her whole career is all about. So certainly Bernie didn't go far enough. And now we're using the word violence. No, this is coming right from the Clinton campaign. Last night on TV, I saw one comment and I turned it off. Donna Brazile trying to tell the American people that Bernie's in the way because the Clintons are worried about money and going up against Donald Trump, and this is all bad for the Democratic Party because Bernie's getting in the way, although she respects him, and oh, by the way, she's neutral. You know, come on. All this is doing is infuriating the Bernie supporters who have raised millions of dollars, who have brought him to this point. He's going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,900 delegates. Now, all the people on CNN thinks that these delegates aren't worth a shit and that they shouldn't have any say at all at the convention. In fact, Michael Nutter, the former mayor of Philadelphia, who's bragging about the fact that he did the deal to get the convention in Philadelphia, and I'm sure some major corporations had something to do with that. I mean, he's saying, we're not going to put up with this in Philadelphia. Really? All that does is throw bait out to the Sanders people who want to be heard. Here's what the Sanders people want, in case you hadn't figured it out. Number one, they want to be respected. And number two, they want their fair say. That's all they want, okay? Is that hard? You know, and if you're going to go to a convention and you're going to disenfranchise them, and if they think they're getting screwed and you don't listen to them, what happened in Nevada is going to happen in Philadelphia. It is a process that has to be fair and legal and followed. That's what it has to be. So Sanders campaign manager Jeff Weaver stepped out last night and just told it like it is about Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we could have a long conversation just about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and how she's been throwing shade on the Sanders campaign since the very beginning. Whether it was the debate schedule that were very few and far between and scheduled on weekends when no one was going to be watching, whether it was when they shut off the Sanders access to his own data and we had to sue them in federal court to get it back, whether it was these joint fundraising agreements with the Hillary Clinton campaign, which are taking money away from state parties and sending it to the DNC. And look, it's not, I got to say, it's not the DNC. By and large, people at the DNC have been very good to us. Debbie Wasserman Schultz really is the exception.
Yeah, she sure is. There's leadership for you. They've been trying to talk Bernie Sanders out of this campaign for a long time, and it's all going to come down to California on June 7th, and we'll see what happens after that. But it's going to be an interesting convention. You know what really scares the hell out of me? Is that, and I'm going to do this story on TV tonight, is that Hillary Clinton is admitting that Bill Clinton may be in charge of the economy, that he's going to have some kind of major role in her administration. That is not what I want. And it's not based on anything personal. It's based only on where he stands on trade deals that have gutted American jobs. I don't care about the 90s. The 90s are gone. The dot-com boom had everything to do with the 22 million jobs that were created during the Clinton years. Had we not had the dot-com boom and the tech revolution, who knows what would have happened. But the fact of the matter is, I think any president would have thrived as far as the economy is concerned in that situation. Now, I do give Clinton a lot of credit for a balanced budget, and when he turned it over to Bush, we didn't have the deficits that we have today. It was the spending off budget going into Iraq and Afghanistan that changed everything, and of course the 2 rounds of tax cuts. You know what I'm talking about. The point being here is that Bill Clinton wants the TPP and Hillary Clinton doesn't. And somebody in the world of journalism has got to get those two together and find out exactly where they stand. Because I don't want Bill Clinton around the administration influencing Hillary Clinton. She's against it. So we got to hold her feet to the fire on that. I know he's for the TPP. So that causes a lot of problems, a lot of consternation. And I don't want his economy. I want an economy for the future. And an economy for the future is not shipping jobs overseas. And I'm going to tell you something right now, folks. If the Republicans can come up with a health care plan where people won't get booted off because they get sick, if they can come up with a health care plan that will encompass all Americans, if they can guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security aren't going to get gutted, they're going to peel a lot of people away in this election. The guy's name is Trump. And the Democrats better be aware of it. And it's not going to be Bernie Sanders' fault if this continues on. Lots more coming up. Richard Viguerie talks about Donald Trump and moving forward for the Republicans after this. Stay with us. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about Biogreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegotit.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. So the question is, here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary, is the Republican Party coming together? Donald Trump appears to be making rapid progress in unifying Republican voters behind his presidential bid, while there's some discord on the left. NBC News survey, monkey poll released Tuesday morning, showed that Trump and Clinton, performing at exactly the same level within their respective parties, each commanded 87% support. Richard Viguerie is with us. He's the godfather of the conservative movement and chairman of conservativehq.com. Mr. Viguerie, good to have you with us.
Always a pleasure, Ed.
I know you're disappointed that it is Donald Trump and it's not Ted Cruz. Have you come to grips with what the party's got to do? Tell me, I'm taking your temperature, Mr. Viguerie. How are you today? How are you today?
Well, I'm fine, Ed. I've been better, but I'm okay. I'm going through, the 5 steps of recovery from a disaster here. I'm like most conservatives, I think we've reconciled ourselves to is going to be Trump. My advice to conservatives, which I think is the position that Paul Ryan is taking, which is I tell conservatives, take the month of May off. We've worked hard. We lost for the most part the conservatives movement, and let's just see what Trump does. The next half a dozen moves are up to him, I think. We're not really interested in rhetoric or speeches because Trump is a man who changes his mind between tweets. So rhetoric won't get it. We want to see personnel, as you may have heard me say many times, Ed. It's personnel is the ball game.
So, Mr. Viguerie, in the conservative movement, who do you put the responsibility on the shoulders of what person to hold Donald Trump's feet to the fire? Is it the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan?
No, I don't think Ryan can do that. I think the person in the Congress who's best equipped, qualified to do that is Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama. As he's got a close relationship with Trump. He was the most highest profile supporter of Trump in the Congress, and conservatives are counting on him to keep Trump on the straight and narrow.
Interesting. So Sessions now becomes a big player in the Senate because of his connections with Trump?
Yes, a very, very key point person, absolutely. And conservatives have the utmost confidence and admiration and respect for Jeff Sessions, and we have we're putting a lot of our hopes and dreams in Jeff Sessions' lap here. So
why wouldn't it be Speaker Ryan? He was on the last ticket with Romney, and we know what he wants to do: privatize Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. What about that?
Well, conservatives don't see Paul Ryan as a conservative. He's certainly not a limited government constitutional conservative, and we don't trust him. He's part of the leadership, and that's what this election was a lot about. 75-80% of the vote went to the two anti-establishment candidates, Trump and Cruz, and there's just no trust with politicians. There's no trust out there, Ed, on the left or the right, with politicians and with our major institutions. People don't trust big business, Wall Street, unions, nonprofits, education. It just no trust out there. That's why we need to see.
Where is Ted Cruz 1 year from today?
Whether Trump wins or not is up to him. Same thing with Cruz. Whether Cruz wants to be the leader of the conservative cause in the country is pretty much up to him. He can do that, probably his best position to do that. We need leadership, and conservatives need a lot of things. Number one above everything else is leadership. Cruz is positioned to do that. I don't know if he wants to play that role. We'll have to wait and see.
All right. But, the other day, the big meeting last week between the House Speaker, Paul Ryan, and also Donald Trump. And they did talk about, Social Security. In the past, Trump was saying that he was going to protect Social Security, that it wasn't going to be on his radar screen. Then his top political spokesperson, political operative, Mr. Clovis, said that no, he would be open to cuts. You're saying that he changes his mind between tweets. What's going to happen here? Do you know?
Not at all. I think that they're going to paper over some of these big things, and I think I think what Trump wants primarily, he wants the big things. He wants to build a wall. He wants to build a big wall and have Mexico pay for it. He wants to redo the trade deals. He wants to get a handle on immigration, border control, and then after that, Ed, I suspect he's going to leave a lot of the details to others.
Yeah.
As Ross Perot told us, the devil's in the details. I think, Trump is going to leave that to others. He's not going to focus on that. not his style.
Can Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton and I guess Bill Clinton now? They're saying that he's going to be in the administration.
Well, they told us that 20 plus years ago. You get two for the price of one. And I can believe that Trump can get 40% of the vote or 60% of the vote. And the good news is it's pretty much up to him. I think that the country is ready for a change, and I think Hillary's got a lot of baggage. She's a flawed candidate in many ways, as Trump is. And the range is between 40 and 60%. And anybody that tells you they know and got the answer right now is full of it. Because none of us, not you, not me, not Trump, nobody's been right so far.
Yeah.
Trump is as surprised as anybody, but this has played out the way it has.
Do you think that it's good political strategy to bring up Bill Clinton's past and say that Hillary's an enabler and that she was rough on women that were involved with Bill Clinton? I mean, does that play?
Absolutely. The one thing that does not work to the Republicans' advantage is not to attack. We saw John McCain and Mitt Romney run weak campaigns. They did not attack. As I've said many times on your show, Ed, the top two things conservatives have to do to win is, one, you have to have a united Republican Party, and two, you have to have a fighting team. And Republicans have to take the battle to Hillary because she's going to take it to us. And if we walk away from her issues, her baggage, we're going to lose. And we should lose. Yes, this is going to be one tough campaign, and we can't win it unless we meet fire with fire.
Mr. Viguerie, always good to visit. Thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure, Ed.
We'll do it again.
Bye,
Godfather of the conservative movement and chairman of conservativehq.com, Richard Viguerie. When we come back, Katrina vanden Heuvel, editor, part owner of The Nation, right after this.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Just remember, folks, it's always Bernie's fault. It doesn't matter what it is. Katrina vanden Heuvel, editor, part owner of The Nation magazine. We want to get her insight, her take. How are liberals supposed to act in the wake of what unfolded in the Nevada State Convention? And of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz leading the establishment saying that Bernie Sanders isn't going far enough and it's unacceptable, that his statement, quote, responding to reports of violence were insufficient. I guess I'm appalled at that, but I want to hear what Katrina has to say about it. Katrina, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed. First of all, I think Bernie Sanders is right to challenge the Democratic Party to open up. And, what many liberal pundits have jumped on in the last hours, the so-called Nevada provocation. I mean, these were peremptory rulings by the Democratic Party out there that disqualified Sanders delegates to give Clinton the majority. Triggered unacceptable behavior by livid Sanders delegates. But the Nevada Party then accused the Sanders campaign of having, quote, a penchant for violence. And I find that more outrageous than irate delegates perhaps throwing a chair or two chairs, still not fully clear, which clearly Sanders neither knew about nor condoned. And I think what we're losing here is the larger point, Ed, which is, California Senator Barbara Boxer said the other day that Sanders faces a, quote, test of leadership. But the real test of leadership, as it has been throughout this campaign, isn't about Sanders, it's about Clinton. And I think, will Clinton campaign be confident enough to be the gracious winner? Because they're going to need, as we write at The Nation, Clinton supporters may well resent still having to pay attention to Bernie Sanders. Certainly the media does it. I think that's a large part of what's going on with a lot of this.
Yeah.
They'd better learn, in many ways, to sort of swallow their disappointment because they're going to have to win those votes. Sanders is going to fight like hell to defeat Donald Trump, but Hillary Clinton's going to have to convince a large proportion of Sanders supporters to vote for her, and that's going to be a challenge. As I said, Sanders has spoken clearly and carefully, Ed, which is not very well heard in the media either these days, because a lot of people have given up covering the Sanders campaign, which is a mistake. If you're a small D Democrat, you cover that campaign through the last primary. But Sanders said last week, we share a commitment to electing progressive Democrats up and down the ballot in Nevada and across the country, and we are committed to soundly defeating Donald Trump and the right-wing Republican agenda. He is there. But I think attacking Bernie Sanders, particularly when he's winning the battle of ideas. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton just about 10 days ago, right, Ed? Your listeners know. I mean, she began to move on Medicare for all. These are, this is important to understand the momentum here.
Yeah. And
not to close off the energy and not to start hectoring and lecturing, which I think a lot of that is going on, and it's overwrought and too much media attention to it.
Well, it's not only Barbara Boxer, but it's Dianne Feinstein.
No, it's a whole slew.
Yeah, Dianne Feinstein. It's interesting, the two California senators are vocal against Bernie right now before the big primary that comes up June 7th, which is going to decide it all. But Feinstein says she does not want a convention like 1968. I just think that's just all part of the talk-down culture. Like, Bernie, you're in the way. Bernie, this is going to be
worse. In some ways, it's worse than that, Ed, because what they're trying to do is scare people.
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't need to be 68 if there's more dialogue and understanding of Sanders' campaign and his voters. You want to win them over. You don't want to alienate them. And I worry that the DNC, run by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you got a lot of people there who have no use for Bernie Sanders, who are going to lock down that convention. Instead of locking it down with a fear strategy that it might look like the very fractious, ugly 1968 convention. And let's not forget, that's largely, you had Chicago, you had a police riot. But I think you've got to engage the Sanders voter. You've got to engage the Sanders energy and issues and momentum and give Bernie Sanders a keynote place. And I would argue for bringing more Sanders delegates onto these platform and rules committees. I don't know why they're being locked out, but there it is. There it is.
Are they being locked out now that Barney Frank is in charge of the convention? The DNC.
They're not getting a fair number of. It seems to me, considering Bernie Sanders, and I haven't done the count, Ed. He won Oregon last night. It was a squeaker in Kentucky, but before those two, he had amassed 20 wins in 20 primaries and 20 caucuses. That is more than any insurgent campaign in modern American history coming into the convention.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that if you do a little proportional math, you want to get on a few more delegates than I'm not in it, but I've been reading some numbers which, seem off. I will say one thing, though, that I think we all need to take a deep breath, including the Bernie Sanders campaign, because there's a little too much now about rules and breaking of rules. Bernie Sanders has done an extraordinary thing. He has run a campaign of organizing, of education, of driving issues into our country's debate that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And for that, enormous credit. I worry that some of the media focus now is ginning up conflict, Ed. Now, yeah, we all love conflict. I'd love some conflict over issues, but this kind of horse race conflict, smuggle the blood in the water, is making both campaigns seem, it's losing sight of what is at stake. And I mean that regarding the Sanders campaign, because his issues are vital for the future of this country. As I've said before, he has turned not only the country in a more progressive direction, but an entire generation. That is our future in many ways.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see that dissipated in too much kind of procedural, rankling, hectoring, lecturing from both sides. But particularly the liberals are out in force today, kind of doing the Clinton message about exit the race, you're like the new Ralph Nader, you're going to hurt the Democratic Party. No, Bernie Sanders wants to help this party down ballot across the country and wants to tie it to a great kind of revive a Roosevelt New Deal politics and policy that Democrats once championed with great pride.
You could easily make the case that Bernie Sanders offers a lot more down ballot than Hillary Clinton does, but she's got surrogates on every corner in town, and that's just. And
I think we're going to. I just wish the Hillary Clinton campaign would act like the gracious winner. Though, unless there's a miracle, Ed, we may disagree about this. I just don't see Bernie Sanders getting the pledged delegates to win the nomination. And he's been pretty careful, though, again, some of these pundits and Clinton supporters are saying Bernie's misleading the followers. He's not. He's being pretty clear in his victory lap not to claim that he's going to win the nomination.
Yeah.
He says it's a steep, steep climb. What's important is the focus on inequality, on the 1%, the rigged system, the climate crisis.
Well,
these are issues Bernie has driven.
Well, with all this effort to convince Bernie that he's not going to go any further and he has no chance, how come people keep showing up to hear him and see him and vote for him? You know, I find they're not giving up.
I'll tell you why. Because he is showing that there is a message out there. He is continuing to win primaries and gather these enormous crowds that, even after the entire mainstream media, virtually all of it, has counted him out. It's a clear testament to the power of his message and the passions that it evokes.
Yeah.
So I think if Bernie Sanders were to stand down suddenly and follow the instructions of some of the Clinton supporters or the liberal pundits, he'd be doing a disservice not only to his cause, but also to Democrats and to Clinton. So I think there's this, that is very important, the generating of interest and energy that would be sorely lacking. And this idea that Hillary Clinton can't pivot to the general, give me a break. I mean, she's already running these, ads versus Trump. They're going after him big time. And I think, good candidates, and I believe Hillary Clinton can be one, walk and chew gum at the same time. You can engage with Bernie Sanders in a serious, substantive way, and you can also target Donald Trump, who is the one who is actually fomenting and inciting violence around this country. I hate to see people accusing Bernie Sanders and his campaign of doing that. Katrina vanden Heuvel, always great to visit. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Editor, part owner of The Nation magazine, Katrina vanden Heuvel, here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, Biogreen, Clean the Eye Save team, bringing this production. We're back tomorrow.